So the size of the storm and its intensity are not directly related. So if it makes landfall as a category 2 and it remains a compact system, it will not have any significant, it will not make a significant difference. If the radii of tropical storm force winds do not expand and increase, then we'll still be under the same situation, whether it's a category 2 or 3 hurricane.
Thank you, Jules. Paul, before we get to your question, allow me to introduce you guys today to Miss Tenille Hende, the principal hydrologist. She's here with us. So, Paul, after your question, we can move over to her. And I'd like to inform you also that unfortunately, NEC Captain Mendez will not be able to join us in this session because he got caught up with some other matters. But we'll proceed with the rest of the press briefing. Paul, go ahead.
Hi, yes, good afternoon. So I wanted to know if the storm continues down the projected path and it maintains the level of strength that is forecasted at landfall 1 or 2. What can we expect for the Orange Walk district and the Belize district, Belize City in particular, when it comes to the level of rainfall? I know a lot of people are asking, people in the comments from Orange Walk are wondering what sort of impact will they receive? Can we expound on that a bit? I don't know what's the level of information we have there to provide in terms of level of rainfall in Orange Walk, Belize City, what sort of rainfall levels can we expect? Maybe wind speeds. Just if we can go a bit more detailed into the impact in those areas as of right now, what we know.
Yes, thank you, Paul. As I have always said, no, precision and details will increase with time. We are still 36 hours out. And to be honest with you, we know that forecast will never be precise. It will never be precise to the level that people would want in terms of precision and details. But just to give you some idea, we do know that the extreme north of the country, as I said before, will be the area that will be most impacted by the winds. Those will decrease rapidly as we move away from that area. In the country. And I specify right now it's going to be Orange and Belize because we do know that feeder banks can occur far away from the system.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you all for your questions directed at the Chief Meteorologist. Now we will hand it over to Ms. Tenille Hende, the Principal Hydrologist, for an update. Afternoon, Ms. Hende.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you and apologies for being disconnected earlier, but it was unavoidable. Seems to be some internet connections. But just to update on the existing or the current flood forecast, we do have an urbanized flood warning in effect from Belize City to Corozal districts. And there is also a flood alert in the south for the Moho and Temash rivers, as those water levels have been rapidly increasing since our forecast this morning. The flood outlook and in regards to the update given by Chief Met, We expect that those areas that are in the north that are still suffering from persisting flooding conditions, we expect that to continue. And for those who have, expect a compounding effect, given the very conservative 6 inches of rainfall that is expected.
Thanks, Ms. Hendy. Any questions from the media? Kindly raise your hand if you have any. Okay, Mike?
Yeah, good afternoon. I don't believe that anybody in here might be able to answer, but I wanted to put it out there because I've seen a lot of queries and on Facebook and a lot of queries coming into us as regards the possibility of power outages, considering that the storm is heading north into Mexico and CFE might be compromised. So, like I said, I don't know if the chief Met is able to provide any answer as to whether there has been any discussion or on that being a possibility, or if we can just maybe table that question for tomorrow morning's briefing.
Yes, I think that would be an excellent idea to put it off until tomorrow. I concur that given that the system will be making landfall on Mexico, and that we know that we rely on some level of, we do rely on them for some amount of our energy generation, then there is likely to be some effect. But again, I think it's best we leave that for tomorrow. Also, with the winds on our side, there is a possibility with tropical storm force winds in the extreme north that you could have power lines being affected as well. So that's also something to consider.
Hello?
Yes, hello?
Yeah, in line with that question, and we had asked it before today, Principal Hydrologist Ms. Sende, in regards to the dams and power generation, is there any update in regards to whether the dams are in effect distributing generating power?
Thank you for the question. Unfortunately, my response remains the same as on Monday because the electricity generation is more of a fortis function. I can seek clarification from them, but I think it would best be directed to them in terms of the generation. No? What I failed to communicate earlier in my briefing is that our flood forecast will be updated as the system progresses. And so we will be providing that update to our usual stakeholders. So as the system passes, we'll be having updated flood forecasts.
Another question, Ms. Sende, and it was important what you said about what we think because of all the rain, that many areas will be saturated, but you spoke on the matter of what happened because of the heat and the wildfires and even the agricultural land. I might not be saying it right, but it was important to me for the farmers that there's a cross, and so the water won't readily seep through, but will be running off. Could you go over that again for me, please?
Sure, no problem. What happens is that when the soil is at normal, if we want to say, it's not been a drought period or intense wildfires impacting the soil moisture, the soil is very loose. And so it allows water, any element to be subsumed or passes through that medium. With the drought, it then compacts that soil somewhat and it reduces that function of any element being able to pass through it. So it effectively stops the ecosystem function. So if something is hard, nothing can go through it, it just runs over it. So this is one of the elements that has severely impacted flooding and flood levels and how long they persist in combination with the effect of nearby rivers or lagoons or creeks, their abilities to absorb that water that has run off into those systems. If they are already full, they cannot perform that function. They're at maximum capacity and the water has to go somewhere. And it will take the least part of resistance, and it might be through our yards. It might be, in our wells if they're low enough. So we need to account for all of these things that may happen that we have not seriously looked at before. So we absolutely need to safeguard our domestic wells if we have them, if they're low enough, have them covered to prevent any runoff from entering those wells, because then it travels underground and it not only affects you, but it affects persons downstream of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Hendy. Does anyone else have any other questions? If not, then I think we can go ahead with wrapping up today's briefing.
Can I just say one last thing before we leave, Ms. Mogil?
Sure, go ahead.
We are under a tropical storm watch, and I repeat, that means, and that's for the north of the country from Belize to the northward, including the islands. That means that tropical storm conditions are possible in that area. I want to clarify perhaps a misconception in the public that from a watch, you must go to a warning. It is not necessarily the case. A watch means that we monitor, and if we notice that the system is shifting further north, or if that the tropical storm force winds will not extend into our area, then the watch can be downgraded and you don't go into a warning. So I think that is important. A watch does not necessarily means that will escalate to a warning. Just want to leave the public with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gordon. And thank you to members of the media for your questions. We know that you're very important with disseminating this information to the public. And thank you to the public who joined in on today's live. We'll wrap up today, but we'll meet you again tomorrow morning at 7:30 with that briefing.